Well, hello, I'm Stan Foxworthy, and welcome to the Airsoft Charleston YouTube channel. I apologize, it's been a while since we've done any videos, but we've been busy on the field. Well, anyway, let's get started today. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing is a series on how to upgrade your AEG, pistol, etc. And we're going to start off with the question that everybody asks me right off the bat. How can I get my gun to fire better, more consistent? How can I get things to work better? It's not fast enough, it's not this, it's not that. And it all goes back to, what is the gun doing? What is the replica having an issue with? Take, for instance, one of our rental AEGs. It's a great combat machine. AEG works well for us. And what you're going to notice, though, is it's kind of a little bit loose. Everything is kind of loose. Well, after you use an AEG for a little bit, the vibration will start loosening up all the screws, all the attachment points. Anything that's loose is going to make things not very accurate. So let's start out with finding out where all the things are loose. And also, we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of blue Loctite, or red if you've got it, either way. We're going to tighten things back up with that once we get done. So let's start out with first things first. Let's go ahead and pull the upper off the lower receiver. First thing I do is go ahead and pop that pin out, which is really easy. Just pop that guy out. Bingo, comes right off. I usually go upside down so that the inner barrel doesn't just roll off. We don't need the lower for right now. We'll set that aside. Here we're going to go ahead and set this aside. Actually, let's start with the barrel first, the inner barrel. I've had more people come to me after they bought a brand new gun and say, oh my goodness, my brand new gun isn't giving me the feet per second I need. It's not being accurate. And the first thing I ask is, have you cleaned your barrel? And usually with that, they look at me quizzically and say, what do you mean, clean my barrel? Well, when AEGs come from the factory, usually there is a light coating of something to keep corrosion from forming on the gun, especially the barrel, the inner barrel. Well, what we want to do is we want to clean that out. And people say, well, great, I'm going to grab some silicone spray. No, you do not want to clean your barrel with silicone spray. I prefer to use isopropyl alcohol because it cleans and then evaporates and it leaves no residue behind. So we're going to get started on that. But before we clean it, we've already adjusted this hop up so that it actually flies 0.25 BBs, pretty doggone good at our field. So what I'm going to do, just to make my life easy, is I'm going to mark where this guy is on here with a little silver Sharpie, and I'm going to put a little line just so I know where that is, and that way I can go ahead and I can back off the hop up and turn it off, because when we clean it, we want the hop off completely turned off so the bucking isn't being pressed down and we don't hurt it with the cleaning cloth. So first things first. By the way, don't lose the spring. It's what keeps everything tight. We're going to put that right here. And let's go ahead and take our handy cleaning rod and grab a couple of cleaning patches here. What I usually do is it takes a couple to get this thing clean. Usually when they come in, I cut them in half just so that they're a little bit easier to run through the rifle and you don't snag something. Again, these are non-rifled barrels. They're smooth bore, so you don't need to do anything fancy. You can also use paper towels or cleaning shop towels or whatever, the paper ones. Cut them up. Take just a little bit of the isopropyl alcohol, just a touch. Put that on there. So we've got that on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to insert it into here. A nice smooth push all the way through. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, quite filthy. So right off the bat we can see, and I know it's going to be hard for the viewer to see, but there's a lot of dirt on this guy. And I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this back inside of itself. And I'm going to run one more time through here just to grab a little bit more stuff. So we're going to use both sides of this patch. You don't have to. You can run another patch right away. So we've got lots of gunk there. Once I do that, I'll go ahead and take a second patch And we're going to go ahead and run a dry patch through here just to pick up any other pieces and parts, because any dirt inside your barrel, any oil, will deviate the path of the BB. We all know that the bucking in here is what's putting a backspin on the BB, so it flies and it hops a little bit so it goes further. Since it's a non-rifled barrel and it's a round ammunition like a musket ball, it'll just tumble. If you've never noticed, you take your gun out first thing and you shoot a BB and it goes thunk. Well, that's because we need to put a backspin on it. All right, so we've got that cleaned. Great, let's put our spring back on here so everything is together. Now, let's set that aside. Second thing, and this is all loose. We have to find all the screws that are loose here. And I'm not talking about in me, I'm talking about in the AEG. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to start pulling. These are really loose. Yeah, these could have just fallen off on the field. And we've actually had the front outer barrel just fall off on somebody. Oh my goodness, is that okay? There's 2 grub screws on here that should have been tightened, and that just came off like in my hand. So that was an accident waiting to happen. All right, let's get the other 2 screws off of here, off of this pick rail here, this front hand guard. Yeah, we're going along here. Now we've got a faux gas block in here with a gas rod in here. So we're going to be careful when we take that off here so we don't lose anything. That little rod sticks in this little top piece here and then fits in another piece down here. Wow, that is really loose. All right. So again, here's another spot that's loose. And we're going to be really careful. There's 2 grub screws on this, and we want to go ahead and tighten these equally, smoothly, so that we don't put any pressure. Oh my goodness, they're almost falling out. All right. We don't want to put any awkward pressure on either side. You'll probably notice that there's threads on here. This collar threads down and tightens down. That's what locks it in place. And then to put some pressure against it, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get these screws snugged down because we don't want them coming out. We could pull them all the way out and put a little bit of Loctite, but I'm just going to go ahead for now and get these guys snugged down, and I think that that'll be just fine. I'll double check on them later in the season just to see how things are going. I'm going to mark this one. So right off the bat, that's pretty tight. Let's double check our first part of our outer barrel here. That's snug. These are all places to look for. So these were already snugged down. Great. Now we're going to go ahead and take our gas block, our faux gas block, and see how this fits in right into here. Right like so. Nice thing about these is they have B, L, T, and R on the side, so we know that the T is our top. So that's where it's going to slide in. We've got a little plate up here for our gas block, and we're going to make sure that that goes right into that hole. We're going to continue sliding this guy down once we get it down here. Now on these, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of Loctite. And all you need is just a dab. You don't need a lot of this stuff, just enough to get the threads wet. So we're going to go ahead and do just a smidge. Come on. Yep. Now it usually goes everywhere. So let's do just a little bit. Get that guy on here. Run him down. And just snug him up. You don't need to crank on these things because you will strip them. This isn't real aircraft aluminum, steel, whatever in the real firearm world. A little too much of that stuff. Let's dab it off. So we've got this. Let's go ahead and give these guys a little snugging. Make sure that we're in tight so nothing's going to come loose. Good, we've got that. Now, before we can tighten everything else back up, remember this guy? This is loose. And I think what I want to do here is I want to get these screws with a little bit, yeah, they were totally loose. So we're going to go ahead and put a little dab, just a little dab of Loctite on these guys. Just get them started back up here because these grub screws are what holds the forward portion of the outer barrel on. And again, don't screw them all the way in because we still have to slide it on first. Just a little dab, just a touch. There we go, oops. There we go, little dab. And that way, the vibration from the AEG won't rattle these guys out. Let's make sure I'm pulled out far enough just so I don't scratch up everything. Okay, little hole here on top of our sight. Fits right in our faux gas block rod here. Or we're going to put this on here. We're going to make sure we get everything matched up nice and close. And we're going to put this on here, and there we go. Voila. Now, in order to tighten these down, we have to push that little block in. And we're going to take our screws and go in through the side. And we're going to go ahead and snug these guys down. Remember, we got some Loctite on here, which will dry, and it will help from this backing out. But we're going to snug it down nice. Don't over tighten it, but we're going to snug it down right like that. There we go. Now we just have to push this plate forward and do it from both sides, because if you do it from both sides, it won't get snagged. Just push it forward inside the rail. We've got to make sure that our screw holes line up, so let's just go ahead and push it down a little bit more. We're almost there. Let's push it down just a little bit more. Sometimes you can go ahead and wiggle something in here and just to kind of get this guy lined up. Because again, you want to go ahead and get it lined up so you can put your screw in here. We've got one side of this that's a little, there we go. Push it down, push this guy down a little bit, lined up. This guy could come down just a little bit more, push him down, line him up. And now we're gonna go ahead and put these screws in. And of course, we're gonna put a little bit of Loctite on those. So again, this is the first thing you can do to really get better performance out of your AEG. Just clean the barrel, go through it, tighten things up, put some Loctite on it. It also helps to get to know your particular AEG, your particular replica of choice, by getting to know it and taking it apart. I recommend not taking it apart out in the wild. Do this at home. Do this where you have a place to set up, that you can go ahead and have a mat or a clean table or something, and if something drops, it's not dropping into the dirt out at the airsoft field. So we're going to go ahead and snug those guys in here. All right, that feels good. So we're all tightened back up. Voila. And what this will also do, because the outer barrel helps with the inner barrel, keeping it pointed in the right direction. Normally, if I was going to do a high-end build, I'd go ahead and take a little Teflon tape and wrap the barrel. It's not really necessary in here because it's kind of a nice snug fit. We're going to go ahead and feed this guy all the way in. There's some grooves in here, so we're going to line it up, make sure it goes all the way in, make sure that spring tension moves. Next step, we're going to go ahead and take our upper receiver. Make sure this front pin is pulled out so it doesn't grab on the hop up. So we're going to go ahead and get him lined up. Good. Everything's looking good. Double check. There we go. We'll just push this all the way down, get the pins lined up, push it through, and there we go. Voila. A nice, tight AEG. So, thanks for tuning in to our first tip of the channel, and stay tuned for more to come. Thanks for watching, and have fun out on the airsoft field.